Trevonne has a few ideas that we can talk through of how we can, like, what we can do when we start to feel that imposter syndrome, and like how we can navigate through that in order to continue to move forward towards what we really want. Just really quick before we get there, I've been kind of teasing this idea of like, hey, we're having these conversations for a very intentional, specific reason, and it's really important and powerful. And it's because we can talk about these things. If we can kind of talk about what we notice in ourselves, like, hey, this is what I've been thinking about it. I've been meditating on it. This is what I really want. I really want this. And if you can't see, I'm just holding up my hand to represent what this is. This is whatever you want it to be. I really want this. If you can communicate this to somebody, this is what I really want, but I'm afraid, or I'm blank. And it's because I think this. I think that I'm not good enough for this, or nobody's going to want to pay me to do this, or whatever it is, right? If we can talk about these things in a group of people, one, it gets that energy out of us. So now we're not holding that inside of ourselves anymore. But it allows us to kind of separate us from the imposter syndrome, because we're not the imposter syndrome, right? If we can point our finger at something and say, hey, that's what that is over there. This is that. Now we can separate ourselves from it. And now we can have we can kind of put a wedge between these two ideas. And now we're no longer the same, right? So if we can bring to the table, hey, I really want to be a health coach who's able to impact a lot of people to live longer but more energized lives. I really that's what I'm called to do. I'm creating this podcast because I want to create a safe space where we can have conversations and we can support each other and we can grow together. And I believe that for the next generation, we can create a net positive for everybody in the way that we think about life and the way that we think about each other and how we support each other. This is what I really want to do, but I'm scared because I haven't quite figured out how to say that. I haven't figured out quite how to communicate that to the world. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out how to communicate that to the world. And I've never done this before. So I don't know what this path is in front of me. I'm actually really scared. But we're doing this podcast so that we can practice getting the reps and figure out how we want to communicate things and find ways that we can impact people right now where we're currently at, while also building a future together with a group of coaches. And the group of coaches just happen to gravitate towards that vision too, because, well, we're communicating, right? And by communicating, you're inviting other people in on your journey as well. And the right people are going to go with you on that journey and help push it forward despite the imposter syndrome. And us together as a group, we can continue to push forward towards what we really want while being able to point at the imposter syndrome over there, because it's not in here. It's not in us. I'm pointing at myself. No, it's not in us. The imposter syndrome is over there. All three of us on this call right now, we can look at the imposter syndrome and say like, hey, that's the imposter syndrome. That's what it looks like. That's how it shows up in our life. That's what that is. But we're going to continue on our path going forward, doing what we are meant to do, right? Listening to our hearts and creating our vision, despite how scary it feels. So that's kind of why this is such a powerful thing to do, to be able to talk about the feelings that we have around imposter syndrome, and then also be very honest and talk about the things that we truly actually want in our life, even if it feels scary to say.